Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Amit Kaushik, Chief Marketing Officer, Altec Group. I welcome you all to our new Global Economy and Graphite Electrode Industry May 2024 Outlook and Beyond podcast. Let us look at the global OECD forecast on the economy. OECD says global growth is projected to remain modest at 3.1% and 3.2% for the years 2024 and 25 respectively. Goods prices inflation is back to normal levels around 2%, but services prices inflation is still high at around 5%. Globally, the export orders are improving after a drop between 2020 and early 2022, but shipping cost remains elevated due to the Red Sea crisis. The impact of shipping attacks on supply chains is so far limited. Let us now look at some of the commodities. Brent crude futures rose about US $82 per metric ton, gaining amid a improving global demand outlook. The US EIA raised its global oil demand growth forecast to 1.1 million barrels per day in 2024 for a previous estimate of 900,000 barrels per day, with the demand raised higher for Asian countries except Japan. Iron ore prices for 62% content sank to US $107 per metric ton in June, hovering near its lowest level in 2 months. On a pessimistic ferrous demand expectations for China, plunging home demand significantly dented home sales in China, recently illustrated by a 34% annual plunge in sales in China's 100 largest contractors, and exacerbated the outlook of low construction activity. Newcastle coal futures fell below the US $137 per metric ton level, the lowest in 2 months, driven by projections of declining demand for metallurgical coal in China for the third consecutive year. This downturn is attributed to stagnation in the property and infrastructure sectors. Let's take a look at LME prices of commodities like steel scrap, CFR Turkey. Turkish mills have kept their domestic scrap buying prices unchanged. Imported scrap prices are also followed a stable trend. Nickel fell below US $17,600 per metric ton, reaching early April levels on the back of profit-taking by investors. Meanwhile, concerns over supply disruptions caused by the riots in New Caledonia, a French overseas territory holding about 20 to 30% of world's nickel reserves, starting to ease as tensions are cooling off and France is lifting the state of emergency. Aluminium futures extended their retreat to below US $2,550 per metric tons in June, as signs of poor demand in top consumer China offset recent concerns of lower supply. Official PMI data pointed to an unexpected contraction in China's manufacturing activity during May, signified by a sharp slowdown in imports. Copper futures extended their downturn to the US $4.5 per pound mark in June, after the official manufacturing PMI in China reflected a contraction. The trade data for a period pointed to a 7.1% annual drop in the imports of copper ore turnover, despite the surge in prices, as refiners have been using scrap to support output. Lead increased 115.5 US dollar per metric ton, or 5.6% since the beginning of 2024. Zinc fell below US $2,880 per metric ton, the lowest in 6 weeks after China's manufacturing PMI came in below market expectations, pointing to a contraction in manufacturing activity and dampening further demand. Ferroalloys. The ferrosilico-manganese 6516 grade prices keeping steady at US dollar 1,230 per metric ton FOB, and the 6014 grade remained stable with a minor decline of US dollar 7 per metric ton FOB at 1,115 per metric ton FOB. Major producers in Vizag and Raipur kept the silico-manganese 6516 grade available at a FOB range of US dollar 1,230 to 1,240, as sellers were forced to maintain the same rates due to limited demand of high quality manganese alloys and rising prices for imported ore. For Indian ferrosilicon, 70% prices declined by INR 1,100 per metric ton, which is $13.2 per metric ton, to 1,202 per metric ton US dollars ex Guwahati since the last assessment on May 13, 2024. Similarly, prices in Bhutan also saw a reduction of US dollar 9.6 per metric tons, reaching to US dollar 1,190 per metric tons ex works. This drop can be attributed to subdued market conditions and changes in supply demand dynamics. Let's have a look at global crude steel production. World crude steel production for the 71 countries was 161.2 million tons in March 2024, a decrease of minus 0.43% compared to March 2023. Turkish steel production continued to grow sharply, along with the Indian, Brazil, Germany, and Iran in the first 4 months of the year. Chinese production dropped by a significant 3%. Now, let's look at global graphite electrode outlook. The situation has not changed much since last 2-3 months. So the graphite electrode demand and the prices are still under stress as the steel production is showing a negative growth. So this brings us to the end of this podcast. Let us meet at a new edition of this Global Economy Graphite Electrode Outlook. Thank you very much.